Good morning, friends, and welcome back. There are many things that Julius Malema is guilty of in this country, one of which is he is the premier peddler of racism in the country, also seemingly the lightning rod for all populist politics, which is probably a good thing to some extent. The fact that his party doesn't seem to grow maybe signaling that most South Africans don't have a stomach for ultimately becoming populist dictators. It seems like maybe, perhaps, the thing that undoes Julius Malema is his antics at rallies. And no, I'm not talking about the incitement of violence by singing, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." I'm also not talking about him saying, "I'm not calling for the death of white people, at least for now." None of that racist rhetoric that any other person in South Africa that isn't Julius Malema or black would utter and be jailed for. None of that is what's going to lead to his jail, potentially. No, it's going to be from 2018, when Julius Malema decided in his, I want to say infinite wisdom, but perhaps I shall say infinite lack of wisdom. He decided at one of his rallies to take the gun from his bodyguard and just fire it into the air. Like, there you have him just doing so. You can see that this is 6 years ago. This was uploaded by News 24. Maybe this was back when News 24 wasn't yet a stooge for the African National Congress, but never you mind. 2 years after that, there is a lawsuit finally brought against Julius Malema on this particular issue. And now, in 2025, judgment has finally been reserved. Now, what's very interesting is just before the judgment was reserved, there was final statements. Story from Julius Malema has changed multiple times. So first he said, "I didn't do anything. Right? I didn't fire the gun." But then you have this and you go, well, you kind of probably did, because there you are doing it 6 years ago, right? Then they say, no, but it was a toy gun. It clearly wasn't. So, that also completely got thrown out. Then they say, no, it was blanks. That also didn't hold up to muster. And then finally, now their argument is that, it's AI, Your Honor. That's legitimately the final argument that they made, is that this video was, you couldn't be sure that this video wasn't manipulated by AI. Now, what's genius about this move, actually, I saw a number of people covering this story, and none of them actually brought this up. This was never argued in court. So it was never challenged by the opposition, right? So the prosecutors never had the opportunity to challenge this argument because it was never brought up. But now in the final statements, it allows for reasonable doubt, right? The judge can't reasonably be sure. At least that's their hope, right? They can't reasonably sure that AI wasn't involved in this. In fact, Matthews, one of the advocates here, made the following argument. "I've actually seen a video of your worship," talking to the judge, "dancing on the stage at this EFF rally. Somebody thinks it's funny to be able to put us all there. We are dancing and kicking and all that. It is so easy for these types of videos to be manufactured and put on social media. I am not saying that this one was done like that. But what I am saying is, before a court of law can rely on something like this, this is not an original video we are seeing. It's a video that's downloaded on social media. Anyone can look on YouTube and download it. Yes, anyone can look on YouTube and also just see it, right? This video is 6 years ago. AI 6 years ago wasn't doing this, right? Not even close. In fact, all of the major breakthroughs in AI has happened in the last 2 years. And in terms of video, AI is still pretty bad. Like, you can see when a video is made by AI, because AI can sort of get a lot of things right, but what it really screws up is human movement. It struggles to figure that out. But they're making the argument nevertheless, because it was never challenged in court. They never had the opportunity to prove that this isn't manipulated through AI, and they're hoping that the judge just doesn't know. And the judge will just go, well, yeah, I've seen AI videos of cats doing all sorts of cute stuff. Maybe this is just completely bonkers and broken. Hopefully the judge isn't a moron, and hopefully the judge knows. So what happens if the judge sees through this whole case and realizes, and this, by the way, proves to you how desperate they are. They know that they're called dead to rights, and it's not good. When you actually look into the law of South Africa, just discharging a firearm in a public space, like this one would be, right? It carries a minimum of, or a maximum of 5 years in prison, right? That's just for discharging it. This happened in 2016, Solomon's vs. The accused was convicted of unlawful discharge of a firearm in public, with a sentence for this count combined with another charge, negligent discharge, resulting in 3 years imprisonment. Negligent discharge is another separate entity that they can also be charged under. And this is if you can prove that someone's life may have been put in danger as a result of the discharge of this firearm. I don't think that will really stick. This is the one that I think is really, really bad. So discharging a gun that you do not own a license for, so it's not your gun, yet you're still firing it, this is controlled under the Firearms Control Act 60 of 2000. Specifically, it is illegal to possess or discharge a firearm without a valid license, permit, or authorization. Additionally, discharging a firearm in a built-up area or public space without good reason is a separate offense. Okay, so punishment. Unlawful possession of a firearm. This is if you are in possession of a firearm that you do not own, even if it is just for a second, right? That carries with it a 7-year imprisonment for normal guns. This was not a normal gun, as you will see here. This was an automatic rifle that Julius Malema shot, or at least semi-automatic rifle. Kind of looks like an R4, maybe an R1. Not entirely sure. The vision or the video isn't that clear on it, right? But that carries a 15-year imprisonment for a first-time offense, right? Then you have the discharging of the firearm in a built-up area. That comes as a second one. And then aggravating circumstances. If the discharge involves additional crimes, that, of course, won't count here. So Julius Malema, under perfect conditions, would probably face up to 20 to 22 years in prison. That will be 15 years for a minimum, right? Because that is the minimum, 15 years if you discharge a weapon without a license, right? Another 5 years for discharging it in a public space. That's 20 years minimum. Will that happen? The answer is no. It's just completely no. Because the rules that you and I are governed under, if this was us on video firing a weapon that we do not have a legal right to fire, you and I would absolutely be sent to prison for 20 years. They'll throw the book at us, right? We'll own the prison by the end of it. But this is Julius Malema. Julius Malema will get away with it because he's a political cadre. He's part of the political system. So he'll probably get a deferred sentence or he'll get a suspended sentence. And the judge will most likely not find him guilty on something like unlawful possession of a firearm, even though he was perfectly in possession of that firearm. But again, you can make arguments and the judge doesn't have to break the law in order to make that argument, because Julius Malema wasn't carrying the gun with him the whole time. He was just in possession of it for a short period of time, and then he handed it back to the owner of the weapon. And so they could probably make the argument there, right? So I just know that nothing's going to come of this. This is just guaranteed. You and I would be in jail now. Also, you and I wouldn't have had up until 2025. We would have been in jail like a year after. Of course, Julius Malema plays by different rules because that's how the ruling class in South Africa operates. It's going to be interesting. I want to hear from you guys what you think. Do you think we're going to see Julius Malema finally going to jail for at least some of the bullshit that he keeps pulling? Or do you think he's going to get away with it? As always, if you like my content, if you enjoy what I do here, please consider hitting the like button, consider subscribing and commenting, because YouTube likes when people are engaged. But if you're watching until now, you're an absolute trooper, and I love you for that. If you want to support this channel, you love what I do, and you think more people should be able to see it, consider becoming a patron or a YouTube member right here by clicking the join button or clicking the link in the description down below. As always, I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.